Yeah, see, for me, it's very simple. India is an incredible country. Everybody speaks about it, of course. To me, it is something much more than just the Taj Mahal and the static things, 36 UNESCO monuments, 3,600 ASI protected monuments. For me, tourism to be meaningful, it has to be a transformative experience. Anybody who comes to India, when they leave, they should say, wow, I'm a different person. So for me, that's tourism. What's the fallout of all this? People will stay longer. They will occupy my rooms in the hotels. They will go shopping. They will hire a taxi. They will hire an auto rickshaw. They will go to restaurants. They will go shopping. They will buy souvenirs. For me, all this creates jobs. So on one hand, it's a huge spiritual experience. I mean spiritual in the sense of you having a new outlook to the world. And what is the basis of my claim that when you come to India and when you leave, you would be a different person? It's very simple. The 5,000-year-old Indian civilization, which we talk about, it can be crystallized into something very simple. It's a belief that you and I, we are one, that the entire humanity is one, and we go beyond that and say the entire universe is one. And therefore, happiness is indivisible. I can't just decide that me, my family, my children, my wife and my mother-in-law will be happy. Of course, keeping the mother-in-law is happy is very important, but that for itself, when happiness is indivisible, it basically means that unless the rest of the world is happy, you cannot be happy. And now, this is a fundamental of Indian philosophy. If you ask me what is Indian civilization, and this crystallized form is called, I call it yoga. So yoga is not a physical exercise, it's not even a mental exercise, it's a well-done song. It is a life view, how you view the universe, your life and the rest of humanity. So Indian tourism is all about that. Yeah, now two things. You see, Thailand and Malaysia or anybody else is not competing with me on what I said. The journeys to these places, possibly, I don't want to kind of belittle the experience in Thailand or any other country. Possibly the experience of these countries is not transformative, but Indian tourism is transformative. You come to India and you go back a different person with a completely different life view. Get me? So on the one side, I'm trying to market this side of India, and that's why if you look at my promotionals of yoga and also Ayurveda and the Buddhist circuit, and also even luxury. Ultimately, the lady says luxury is not all these things, the 5-star hotels, it's something within you. You get me? So we are trying to sell that something which is within. Of course, simultaneously, I agree we need to create the infrastructure. So over the past 4 years, we've been trying to create tremendous infrastructure for tourism sector, like all these work which are, of course, which the roads ministry has done. They built national highways like never before. Earlier, the construction of national highways used to be about 12 kilometers per day. Now it is reached about 29 kilometers per day. So the country is beautifully networked. Of course, a lot more things have to happen. Like on my Buddhist circuit, see, the roads are still not very good. The work is going on, and many places it is still under planning, and rest of it is yet to reach the ground. But across the country, we are trying to connect all these tourist destinations, create world-class infrastructure like road, airports. Now, some of the best airports in the country are in India, like Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore, and Hyderabad. These are some of the best airports in the world. And of course, by opening out Udhan, see, the Honorable Prime Minister said the growth it just doesn't mean growth for the sake of growth. It has to reach people. So he said even the person who wears a rubber chappal should be able to fly. And today we have created over 71 lakh seats under Udhan, where people are able to fly for nothing. I mean, very little they pay. So the whole ideology of the Modi government, it's also reflected in what we do in tourism. We want people across the country to travel and say, this country belongs to me, I need to see it. So, as per the latest World Travel and Tourism Council's report, India is at rank number 3. After China and the United States, we are at number 3 with an annual income of $234 billion. And so it's a massive contribution we are making to the economy. But what is wonderful about this whole revenue part and the statistics is that out of this $234 billion, 87% comes from domestic tourism. Yes, that means Indians are traveling plenty. Last year, about 1.8 billion trips, not million, billion trips were made by Indians within India itself. Of course, we also have 26 million Indians going abroad, fine, let them go and see abroad and let them learn things for the country. But the Honorable Prime Minister has said, please also see India. And after being in public service for 40 years, being an IAS officer, then being an MLA, now being a minister and a member of parliament, I travel so much, I am traveling 25 days a month, but still I have not seen 1% of India. And that is India. And every time I go to a new destination, I sit down and say, wow, this is incredible, it's beautiful. So this is the experience of India. When I went to Khajuraho for the first time, I sat there just looking at that temple complex for 3 hours. I said, how could anybody in the 9th century, it was built between the 9th and the 11th century, how could they have ever conceived something like this? How could they have built something like this? There is no cement, there is no steel. I mean, it's just incredible, the kind of architecture that is there, the kind of imagination that must have gone into it, and it's magnificent. How do you build things like that? Take, for example, the Ellora. I mean, you have a whole temple built from a mountain. I mean, I think millions of people have worked to carve out a temple out of a whole mountain. I mean, some of these things are just incredible. The temples of Tamil Nadu and Orissa. So there is so much to be seen in India. The luxury of Rajasthan, the backwaters of Kerala, and the Ran of Kutch, and the entire northeast. I mean, 73% of Himalayas is in India. I mean, so much incredible scope for adventure tourism to discover yourself. It's amazing. So we have plenty of products in India, and so we are, in a way, not competing with anybody. Of course, in another way, we are competing with anybody because the total number of global travelers are X, but of course, the number is growing hugely. So we got to create the necessary infrastructure, make sure that everybody is happy when they come here, because you want to have happy experiences, and providing the right kind of hotels, the transport, the infrastructure, the road, the airport, the buses, the taxis, the auto rickshaws, the retailing. So in tourism ministry, we are concerned about everything that will bring happiness to people. See, now we've been telling the state governments, after law and order is the state subject, it's not a federal subject. So we've been telling them, you got to really, first thing to make sure is a sense of security, which tourists have. Otherwise, they would not come here. Now, all the state governments, their first priority really is law and order. And 14 states today have set up their own tourism police in some way or the other. But we've been telling the states, now you need to take this more seriously. You need to have tourism police in all the states with all the necessary powers. Now, unfortunately, most of them are attached to a police station, and many of them don't even possibly have the power to register an FIR. I think it's got to change. It's got to be moved into a full-time tourism police station, which can, make sure, and the kind of people who man these stations have to be different. These have to be people who can speak at least English, possibly some other language as well, and then of course these are the people who should know how to be polite and how to really be absolutely courteous and all these things. And if you look at the Kumbh today, it's a great experience. Everybody who tells me there tells me that the kind of behavior from the police and from everybody is so different. People are so courteous, so kind, and so competent. So Indian police can be extremely competent. We just need to want to do it, and we are now, of course, insisting, prodding the states to do everything possible to ensure that all the tourists feel that they are completely secure. But let me tell you, there is some bit of publicity against us, which is driven by the global media and also by certain extent by the Indian media. Most of this is a hype, of course. we do not approve of any incident. I think any incident anywhere in India, in the country, is deplorable. We don't. But then you see, to blow it out of proportion and then put it on the front page every day, I think it's bad. We have isolated incidents happening. After all, it's a country with 1.3 billion people. You are bound to have some incidents which are deplorable, of course. But you see, the whole thing of putting it out there on the front page and then saying India is unsafe, I think it's extremely unfair, because this country is safe. As in today, we employ 81.2 million people in the tourism industry, which is about 12.38% of the total jobs in the country. So, in terms of employment, we are among the biggest generators of employment in this country. In the past 4 years, I mean, these are all from the study, from the tourism satellite account study. This is as per the UNWTO norms. And the study is done by the National Council for Applied Economic Research, not by us. So, it is not even an internal document. Over the past 4 years, we have created 13.92 million jobs, only in the tourism sector. So, I think we have been one of the biggest drivers of growth, one of the biggest drivers of employment. The multiplier effect is fantastic in the tourism industry. For every rupee you spend, you get more money back than any other sector. And again, in terms of employment, what you see is that out of 100 jobs, possibly 85 jobs go to the people who are deprived. Yeah, like you take a 5-star hotel. A lot of people might think, oh, 5-star hotel means it's for the 5-star people, for the elite. Actually, out of that, people employed in a 5-star hotel, 75% of people come from the deprived sections of society, housekeeping, the stewards, a whole lot of people like that. Only just 25% comes from, let's say, graduate schools and MBAs and above. So, the biggest beneficiary of tourism, even if it's a 5-star hotel or a 4-star hotel, are the poor people of this country. So, out of these 13.92 million jobs which has been created over the past 4 years, at least, I am saying at least 10 million jobs would have gone to the poor people. See, by and large, what we do, earlier we used to advertise India at large. We put a picture of Taj Mahal, then we put some other picture and then say, come to India. We have now moved away from there completely. We are addressing segments, verticals. Now, we have done promotionals, and each of these promotional movies are only 60 seconds, because today's attention span is so little. And one is on yoga, second is on Ayurveda, third is on wildlife, fourth is on cuisine, fifth is on luxury, and sixth is on Buddha. These 5 promotionals, which are each 60 seconds, we have put it on the social media, and in fact, 3 movies out of this on the social media alone, in 3 months' time, we had 193 million views, not just hits, views. That means people who have completely seen these movies. We advertise on the mainline television, CNN International at prime time, CNBC, CBS, BBC, and billions of people are watching our programs. And over the past 6 months, our promotions have been ranked at number 1, 2, or 3 consistently by the CNN. So, we are doing fantastically well in terms of marketing the whole India, the spirit of India, and to things which we think are important, which will bring in people, not really just bring in people, make them stay for a long time. Like anybody who comes on a yoga, they would stay at least for 10 days. Anybody who comes for an Ayurvedic wellness program will stay at least for 2 weeks. And anybody who comes to see our wildlife, which I mean, a lot of people don't know, India has some of the best wildlife sanctuaries in the world. I mean, they would stay at least for a week. So, I am interested in bringing people into the spirit of India, and at the same time making them feel very good, and of course, making them stay very long, so that I get the returns from the tourism. Aided tourism that doesn't bring in benefit to the local community is useless. Like as on today, because the highway is there, earlier people used to drive to Agra because it take a long time, and then people stay for the night there and come back. Today, because we have a highway, people reach in 2 hours and then they see the Taj and come back. Now, what is the benefit to Taj and to the local community? A lot of pollution. These people just go and cause pollution and they just come back. That doesn't help anything of the local community. They don't go shopping, they don't buy a souvenir, they don't take a taxi, they don't hire an auto rickshaw, they don't go to a restaurant. What is the point of tourism like that? Yes, tourism has to generate employment, it has to generate money for people at various segments of society. That's the whole idea of tourism. And again, experience. If you just go and see the Taj and just come back, what is the kind of experience? I think you should sit there, watch it by a full moon, and to just savor in the beauty. That is how you really enjoy beauty. Just not going and saying, wow, and take a picture, a selfie, and then come back. And that is not an experience, really. No, I really think it really deserves industry status. We need to get much bigger investments into the sector, and of course we should also be eligible for much more money from the banking sector, so that much more infrastructure can come up. Take for example the mid segment hotel rooms. We need something like 200,000 rooms additionally. No, that can come in only if we get money, borrowers get money at a reasonable rate. Today we don't get it because we are not considered to be really an industry. Yeah, so this is absolutely essential because we have such amazing multiplier effect in this sector, and therefore we produce more jobs than any other industry, and therefore I think it's absolutely necessary that we get these benefits. And of course we are spending a lot of money on our own. Whatever money we get, budgetary support we get, we are putting it on the ground. Like we have 2 flagship programs, Swadesh Darshan and also Prasad. The whole intention is to connect destinations and to build infrastructure around that, so that when people go there, it's an experience. Now, today, as I said, 87% of all our revenue comes from domestic tourism. Now, out of that 87%, at least 60% go travel on a religious tour. And therefore, our big focus again is to create infrastructure around religious places. Yeah, so that you see when they go, it's an experience. Now, I don't really care why they travel. That's a problem. But I love people traveling because that generates money for me. Yeah, so it's very important. And when they go there, whatever it be it a religious place or a heritage, I think it's my duty to make sure that people feel, wow, this is a nice place to be in, to spend some more time there. So I want to make it an experience for all of them. So we put in money. We have now under Swadesh Darshan program, we have 77 projects going at a total sanctioned expenditure of 6,121 crores. Under Prasad, we have 23 projects at an outlay of 832 crores. So all these are going, and we are completing all these projects very, very quickly, so that infrastructure is in place. Now, if you ask me, can we do more? Of course, we can do more. If I had a lot more money, tons of money, I could have done. If I had $100 billion, still I could have used it in the tourism sector, because we can create a lot more infrastructure. So it's these guys, the tour operators, travel agents, hotel owners, the taxi drivers, the guides. It's these people who really do the job for me. And I'm very happy that we have an excellent relationship with all these, everybody in this sector. In fact, I call all of them ambassadors. Yes, I said, you are India's ambassadors. Please, every time you see a guest, whether it's a foreigner or an Indian, treat them with a lot of respect. Make them feel at home. After all, they're traveling, they want to feel good at the end of it. You don't want to feel miserable saying that somebody cheated me and this experience has not been good. I said, go out of your way, and it's good for you because you will get more business. Yeah, if you are good to people, they will come back to you. Or if you are a taxi driver, they will take your number next time when they travel. Or when their friends come, they will say, oh, hire this guy because this guy is good. So I think it's in everybody's interest that we all work together, and I'm very happy that Indian hospitality industry is doing fantastic. We all work in very, very close coordination. No, see, this is where all these approvals are not federal subject,
Yeah.
not controlled by the government of India. Ultimately, all these basically most of these sanctions have to come from the local body. Your building permits and most of the stuff come to. So, and that's not something which cannot be misappropriated or reappropriated, whatever the word you want to use, by the federal government. So, basically state governments have to work. See, tourism is their subject. But unfortunately, the problem again is that very often state governments don't put in enough of money and enough of effort in the tourism sector. I mean, they don't understand what they are missing. So, yes, I completely agree. I think many of the states which are progressive, they have come out with a tourism policy which is very progressive. They are competing with each other, most of the states, and they are giving concessions. Like we had this huge meeting of our National Tourism Advisory Committee at the tent city in at the Statue of Unity. Our whole intention is to bring in 5 million tourists by next year. This year we might get 3 million. And there one of the big suggestions which came up was that land parcels must be given to hotels, especially budget hotels, on a long term lease, and payment to be made staggered over a long period of time. So, the land comes very cheap, then you would be able to build affordable hotels for people, and that is very important. Like if you have to spend 500, 600 rooms for a parcel of land to build a hotel, that hotel will never be feasible, and your tariffs would be too high. It can't be competitive in the global market. So, all this is important, and state governments, most of them who take tourism seriously, are working on this. They have come out with their policies.